have John from Canada who wants to talk to us. John from Canada, you are live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Doing good, John. Doing good. I see that you want to talk to us saying the Olympics are proof of God, and I'm very curious as to what you mean by that.
Well, before I start, I just want to say that you've let yourself go, and you actually look like Wolverine from the X-Men movies.
Damn, John.
Anyway.
Hey, listen, I get it. I haven't cut my hair in a little bit, but come on, let myself go.
Just gonna dehumanize?
I know.
Jesus.
It's not very nice, John. That's a red flag right there. You gotta be careful when you're talking here. All right. But anyway, I'll let you make your point. Go ahead.
Okay, I apologize for that. Anyway, see, the proof of God's existence is that, as the Bible predicted, the world hates Christianity, God, and Jesus. And the proof that the Olympic Summer Games actually happened, they did that scenario with the Last Supper, trying to mock him, is proof of that.
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
I mean, so I could make a prophecy right now saying I'm going to be made fun of, and which you did, and that doesn't make my prophecies true, really, right? If I just have a good guess there. I mean, that's kind of a general claim. Tim is raising his hand, so I'm going to let Tim take it. Tim, what do you got?
John, I want to make sure I understand. Is your premise is that because I think that you said that Christianity is mocked and, attacked, at least in America, and the fact that the Olympics are making fun of the Last Supper is proof that God exists. Is that correct?
Yeah. And the people who made that thing obviously hate God, and they're mocking him, and it also backfired because so many people are no longer watching the Olympics, and it's gotten so much criticism. So it was done in bad taste, which it was.
But do you think it's possible? Do you think it's possible that Olympic opening ceremony actually had nothing to do with the Last Supper? Because if you watched it, I'm sure you saw the blue guy on a platter standing on a pile of fruit, singing songs. It wasn't really it had nothing to do with Christian theology. It was actually an ode to the Greek god Dionysus, which is talking about, it's really an ode to the Greek heritage of the Olympics. I mean, if you just watch the performance, you'll see nothing resembles the Last Supper. Even the image that's been circulated online, if you compare that to the painting from Da Vinci, which also, by the way, is not a biblical portrayal at all. They're all white men in a room.
Right.
But besides that, if you compare it, no one's in the same posture. There's a different amount of people on both sides. They're standing behind a runway. It was clearly just a screenshot and then spread on Twitter as, oh, look, they're mocking this picture when they obviously were not. So I want to be open because data matters to me. So if you have other proof, I mean, even the Olympic person who organized this whole thing said they were not at all spoofing the Last Supper. It was completely an ode to the Greek festival and to the Greek god Dionysus. So help me understand what I'm missing here.
Wow, I hope you really don't. I hope you really don't believe all that, because it's obvious that that's a mockery of Christ. But I just want to know, what is it?
Wait.
Towards Christianity,
John. With all due respect to you, John. Hold on, hear me out. Hear me out for 1 second. Just 1 second. I am open to changing my mind if you can give me the data that would support the claim that you're making. So do you have evidence, like actual evidence, that they were mocking Jesus? Do you have evidence that the picture is representing the Last Supper? Do you have evidence that the Olympic organizers said, yes, we were taking inspiration from the Last Supper? Evidence matters here. Now, I'm not saying you can't think what you think. You can think whatever you want. But to make a claim that this is what happened when all the evidence suggests the opposite is not helping the case here.
Hold on a second. Time it on me. Look, that it's obvious if you look at the painting and the thing, they look identical. But if you haven't noticed,
they don't though, John. They don't. There's a blue guy in the middle of the stage.
They won't do this of other faiths. It's only Christianity that's being attacked. It's only Christianity that's being
not true. It's not true, John. John, it's not true. John, let me give you some more data. In America, okay, let me give you some data points, and I'll tell you what. Let me give you some just straight up verifiable data points, and you can tell me how this proves your claim. In America, 89% of all people in Congress are Christian. On our Supreme Court, 4 out of 5 of them are some form of Christian. They're Catholic or Protestant. In America, the only major religious music industry is Christian. The only major religious worship industry, church, whatever, church industry, it's all Christian. It's a $1 billion industry. Christians run most of the governments. Christians have their own subcultures. There are 250,000 churches in America, way more than any other religious group. Christians are represented at the government level, at the Supreme Court. The only reason why there are so many bills fighting for anti-trans rights is because of the work of Christian billionaire-funded organizations. So I need you to help me understand, what exact persecution are you talking about in America? What? Like, give me the data on this. I'm open to hearing it. If you can give me data, give me numbers.
At the Grammys last year, they showed an ode to Satan. At the Academy Awards, they showed a bull representing the Bahamut. Anyone who comes out as Christian is canceled. James Woods, a big-time American actor who's conservative, his agent dropped him. People don't want to touch him. People are leaving California in droves. During the pandemic, they said that it's illegal to go to church, but it's okay to go to an abortion clinic. And the fact that you guys have this show is proof of that. It's dangerous to be a Christian today.
This show?
Okay.
The show that I'm talking to my Christian guest on, this show right now that's happening? Are you sure about that, John?
I mean, we have a very, as the new evangelicals, as a person, I have a very strong policy of non-dehumanization. So, I'm not here to attack John or make fun of him or dehumanize him. I believe that he's made in the image of God and is worthy of that. But frankly, John, with all due respect, you're just so far off the mark, and you haven't given us any actual data besides really, and I mean this sincerely, right-wing talking points. I mean, even the idea of canceled, there are entire subculture industries like the Daily Wire that picks up these actors, giving them lucrative $1 million deals. Charlie Kirk is a 31-year-old Christian who started an organization that's worth over $80 million a year and talks to presidents. Like, with all due respect, I just don't think you understand that Christians in America are not persecuted. They are, in fact, the most privileged group of people to exist in this country. The rules are written in their favor. They consistently have fair representation. Most people in our government are Christian, etc. So I don't really have anything else to say besides, you're just flat out wrong on this. Sorry.
Yeah.
I am not wrong. We're being persecuted. Any celebrity who comes out is canceled.
I don't think
a conservative makes an ask for something, we're automatically shut down.
John, it's not because it's not because they're Christian that they're being canceled. It's because they're saying something bigoted towards other communities. That's the difference. You don't have to be a Christian to do that, right? If you're making comments about trans people or you're making comments about gay people, okay, people in our culture, they're kind of not liking that. There's been a turn in that. And if that so happens to align in your Christian beliefs, that says more about you than it does about Christianity, right? Because I have a Christian here, John, on my show who is basically saying the exact opposite of everything that you've told me right now, right? And he so far has showed me more evidence that his claims are true than what you're telling me right now. So I don't know. I'm kind of leaning on Tim's side here.
I mean, with all, John suffers from what I call it ACPEC, the American Persecution Complex. American Christian Persecution Complex. Canada,
so that's what makes it even
it's also in Canada as well. There's some people there as well. But I mean, again, with all due respect, John, you can do whatever you want, but I don't buy it.
Or are you going to speak to each other?
John,
go ahead. I'm listening.
Go ahead, but you're on your last red flag here. I'll tell you that.
Let me tell you something. There is no conservative at all. I guarantee there's not a country in the world that's holding LGBT people back. I cannot think of a country more free than the United States.
Are you serious?
LGBT, black people, whatever. Yes, I'm
John.
serious. All we're asking for is that people respect the rules.
John.
You can't go into the wrong place. I really don't know why that's so hard.
Because here's why it's so hard for you to understand, because you're not a minority group, right? And I'm making a presumption here. I don't know your racial background or anything else like that, but in the sense of talking about your publicly known identity, something that if you're a trans person, is not something that you could just cover up and pretend isn't there, right? For example, you're going to be publicly judged and mocked for that. If you're a Christian, nobody's going to know about that in general until you start talking about it. That's the difference, right? There's people who publicly have been I want to say canceled, but really have been absolutely been taken opportunities away from them to have a better life because that they're queer, because that they go against the normative Christian sentiment. And that's been demonstrated time and time again. You're talking about these big shows that you think are mocking Christians. And yeah, I guess I can see from one perspective why you might feel that way. But which is worse, a Super Bowl show that maybe pokes some light fun at some people's religious beliefs, which again, I don't even think is true, or people who have been so marginalized from society that they have higher rates of self-harm, higher rates of general integration, right? Like,
it's just data, dude. This is just data.
It's
just freaking data.
I don't know what else to tell you, John.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to say here. No, I mean, two things. How can we forget the $1 billion ad campaign he gets us at the Super Bowl and also at the Olympics? Yeah. Okay. And they ran those ads. I also want to point out something. Someone in the chat made a good point. I want to be very clear. One of the reasons why I get so frustrated whenever, especially Western people in Canada or the US, make up this narrative that Christians in these countries are being persecuted is because it actually takes away from real people of religious traditions actually being persecuted across the world. Because yes, it is true. There are Christians who are persecuted for their faith. There are Muslims. That is a real thing. Other parts of the world are not nearly as tolerant as other countries. So whenever I hear some of the most privileged people in the country complaining because someone who they like said something homophobic and the free market decided that they don't want them in that place anymore, which, I mean, isn't that just capitalism, baby? Right? To hear people say that's persecution actually makes light of people who are actually persecuted for their religious beliefs in other parts of the world. So, with all due respect to John, I don't really have much more to say besides like, you can believe whatever you want, but the data doesn't lie. And so far in this conversation, no data has been presented to counteract what we've both presented here.
Yeah. John, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. But I think...
Thanks for calling, John. It takes a lot of guts. I appreciate it.
Yeah.